This is my favorite video I record each and every season because it's a chance to get to talk about the teams I'm really high on and also the teams that maybe I'm not as high on as the consensus. And today we are going to be going through each and every team, giving my ultimate record prediction and giving my Super Bowl picks. So the Super Bowl pick, I know I'm going to make some people mad. I make them mad every year. But these are the record standings that I have for each and every team in the league. I got some hot takes in here, some teams I'm a lot lower on than the consensus. And that's what's going to make this a lot of fun. If you guys are new to the channel, though, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Really helps me out, lets me know you guys are enjoying the channel. Also, I have a Patreon with a in-depth draft guide. So if you are a team like the Patriots, Giants, Panthers, they're going to be picking high. For $5 a month, you guys can get to follow my draft guide, see kind of where I'm ranking a lot of the top prospects and see who the top guys on my board are. But this is a video I have been wanting to do for a long time, been pushing it off, and I'm finally here. August 27th is when this is going up, and I have probably gone through about 100 different tries trying to get the perfect playoff picture, particularly on the AFC side. I think I'm pretty set on who I think will make it in the NFC. The AFC was a pain. You got teams there at the end: Jacksonville, Miami, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, and Buffalo. Those are 6 teams pretty much fighting for one spot. So there are going to be teams, or for 2 spots, I should say. There are going to be teams that get left off here. The way we're going to do this, we're going to go through each and every roster, going from the number 1 worst team here, going all the way down to 18, and then we're going to talk about each playoff team and then give my playoff picks as we go along. Stay tuned. We got a lot of NFL and college football content coming, but let's go ahead and start talking about these New England Patriots. I got a 2-15 record for New England. I really think this team is going to struggle. Drake Maye's looked really good in the preseason, but doesn't seem like Gerard Mayo's ready to name him the starter, and I don't think he should. This offensive line is an absolute disaster. You lose Trent Brown, who granted was not able to stay healthy for you for a lot of time. David Andrews has been out in the preseason, but their tackle play, you got Chukwuma Okorafor, you got Ferdarian Lowe. They have some of the worst tackle play in all of football. You kind of got to figure out, where do you want to put Michael Onwenu on that line? Do you want to put him at guard? Do you want to put him at tackle? A lot of questions to be had there, and there's just not a lot of answers there. On top of that, I don't really love the playmakers that they have in New England. I was a big Jalen Polk guy. I thought Javon Baker had some potential. Those can't be the 2 guys you're relying on to start the season. I'm a really, really big Keon White truther, though. I think he's going to break out for this team. But when you're missing a guy like Matthew Judon, you're missing a guy like Christian Barmore on the front of this defense, like, this team is really going to have some struggles. And I don't think it's a hot take to say I think New England will be the worst team in the league. Their strength of schedule, too, especially the first half of the season, is brutal. They have so many tough defensive opponents, and whether you start Drake May week 1 or you wait till down the line a little bit, I think New England is going to struggle, and ultimately I think they'll be the worst team in football this year. Number 2 is going to be probably one of my biggest hot takes of the year. I think the Saints are going to be absolute garbage this year. And you can talk about, Dennis Allen, good defensive coach. They still have a guy like Demario Davis and Cam Jordan, veterans. They're not going to let this happen. Number 1, this offensive line. We talked about how bad it is in New England. I think it's going to be about double as bad in New Orleans. When Ryan Ramczyk was kind of pretty much put on IR for the rest of the year, you kind of knew this season was going to be over. Talise Fuaga was a raw prospect coming out of Oregon State who I did really like, but you needed to see a little bit more from him, and he's going to be starting probably at left tackle for you. You're probably going to be forced to play Trevor Penning some more, who was absolutely atrocious for this team. And the interior is fine. I don't love it, but it's serviceable. You got Cesar Ruiz, you got Eric McCoy in there. What I'm worried about is the quarterback. Derek Carr really struggled last season. They got a new offensive coordinator coming in I believe, Clint Kubiak. I just don't think he's the guy. I think that this division gets a lot of hate. I think this division is more competitive than we think. It might not be the most top-heavy division like a NFC North, AFC North, etc. But I think there's good teams in this division. I like Tampa Bay. I like Atlanta. And I think Carolina is going to be sneaky. This team also has a lot of questions on the defense. Like, I know you got a good defensive coaching staff, but a not super talented roster. Marshawn Lattimore has been in trade talks. Wouldn't be shocked if he's dealt at the deadline. The defensive line, you got a lot of questions on that side of the ball as well. Cam Jordan's getting up there in age. Chase Young has not looked particularly awesome the last couple of years. All the reports have been good on him, but I'm just really, really low on New Orleans. I think they're going to be terrible, and I have them finishing 3-14. The Giants are also at 3-14, and I do like this Giants team, I think, a little bit, and I wouldn't be shocked if they overexceed the expectations here. But Daniel Jones is just such a big wild card for this team because he could look, if he looks even decent, I think the Giants can win 6-7 games. But that's the thing. I just don't trust Daniel Jones to even look like a quality backup right now. He's looked awful in the preseason, making bad reads, throwing the ball to defenders. Malik Neighbors is going to go off for this team, but they have no established run game. You got a lot of questions on the offensive line with Evan Neal, Jermaine Illuminor. You got questions on the interior outside of Dexter Lawrence. The secondary also has major concerns. I thought the Giants could have been a sleeper, but the more I look at this roster, I think they're going to be pretty bad. I got them at 3-14. I think you can win some of those divisional matchups, but I got a 3-14 record for the Giants. Moving on to the 4-win team, and it is the Carolina Panthers. Carolina is a team that I want to like more. This team is going to have their growing pains. I think Bryce Young is going to be really good for this team this year. We've seen it in the preseason. He's throwing with anticipation, throwing on the run, making good plays with his legs like we saw at Alabama. This is a team that I also like what they did in the offseason on the offensive side of the ball. I actually think their offense could be top half of the league good. I think this could be very similar to what we saw with an Arizona Cardinals team this year, where Arizona wasn't as bad as their record said. They were competitive. They were a scrappy team. They still finished with the number 4 overall pick, but you saw some promise there. Carolina might have the worst defensive unit in all of football right now. You lost Frankie Louvu. You lost Jeremy Chin. You lost Dante Jackson. There's a lot of question marks I have around this Carolina defense. And while you lost Brian Burns, I didn't even mention Burns, Derek Brown, I think, is a top 50 player in the NFL, maybe the most underrated player in the league right now. J.C. Horn, very, very good corner. Can he stay healthy for a full season? That remains to be seen right now. I think Carolina could have a, let's say, top 15 offense, and I think they're going to have one of the bottom 5 defenses. They got a interesting schedule, I guess. I think they'll be picking in the top 5 again. Even though I think they're going to be competitive and scrappy, I got them finishing at 4-13. At 5-12, we got a pair of teams here. Tennessee is the first one. I just really struggle with this Titans team. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Tennessee's a sleeper. I just don't see it. I'm not a big Will Levis guy. I really question if this is going to be the right system for him. From all talks in camp, he's been very inconsistent, very up and down. So you got to play that into it. You also question the run game. I thought Tony Pollard was an overpay. I love Tyjae Spears. Can he stay healthy? That was a big concern for him coming out of Tulane. The receiver room, Calvin Ridley single-handedly lost Jacksonville some games last year because his hands were that bad. He couldn't catch up to the ball. I mean, you got questions there. The offensive line is very uncertain right now. J.C. Latham, I still think he's a bit of a project, and I don't love that for them. You got Bill Callahan coming in following his son. We'll see what happens there, but the defense also, I think, could really struggle. You got Jeffrey Simmons. Who else on that defense do you trust on the defensive line? I don't think you got anyone on the interior. Tavondre Sweat, you can't rely on a rookie to get it done week 1. The safety room, it's average. The cornerback room outside of Snead, a lot of question marks. So Awuzie had a down year last season. There's just a lot of uncertainties in Tennessee, and when you're in a division with Houston, Indy, and Jacksonville, who I think all of those teams are going to be 500, around that 500 mark. You also are playing the NFC North. So you got to play Green Bay, you got to play Detroit, you got to play Minnesota, and you got to play Chicago. They got tough games on the schedule. I'm not a Will Levis guy. I think they're going to really struggle. I got them finishing 5-12. Minnesota, it's really just the quarterback situation. Sam Darnold, I do like. I think he could have a really solid year, but a lot of question marks around what this team is going to look like moving forward. I mean, you trust the offensive line, the defense, the secondary outside of Gilmore. Like, this could be one of the worst secondaries in football. Obviously, rest in peace to Kyrie Jackson. That was a major loss. He lost Mekhi Blackman early. There's some concerns around the secondary. Brian Flores is probably going to scheme up something wonderful for this defense, but I do have some concerns about Minnesota as a whole. I think they're going to be fine. You just don't really know what you're getting at the quarterback position. You don't really know what you're getting in the secondary, and those are two very important positions. I got them finishing 5-12. We got 4 teams tied at 6-11 here. We'll start off with the Chargers. I really like the Chargers as a team to watch next season. This season is not a year that I'm in on LA. A division that's pretty solid, I think. I think the AFC West is going to be scrappy. I'm higher on Denver than the consensus. We'll get to them. I like Vegas a little bit. I think they're going to be a good bunch. This is a Chargers team that defensively I don't love. I really don't love their defense. I don't like the front. I mean, you still got Khalil Mack. You still got Joey Bosa when he can be healthy, which is very rare. You like that. You got Derwin James hopefully healthy for the whole year. The secondary outside of Asante Samuel is very unproven. I don't think it got a number 1 corner there. I think Asante Samuel is like a number 2. The defensive line interior, big question marks. And then what is this offensive line going to look like? You draft Joe Alt. You're very excited about that. I think the offense will be fine. I don't think they're going to have a good run game. I don't think they're going to have a good pass game. I think Herbert's going to put up crazy numbers, but who's your go-to guy? Is it Ladd McConkey? I don't think he profiles as a number 1 receiver. So you got some concerns there. I think they're going to struggle in a loaded AFC in the first year under John Harbaugh. They finished 6-11. Another first-year head coach, it's Washington. They're going to win some games because of Jaden Daniels, and that's really what it comes down to. His defense sucks. The offensive line is pretty poor, but I like some of the offensive skill makers they have. I think they got a really strong group of leaders in the locker room, I would say. You got Bobby Wagner, Austin Eckler, Dan Quinn. Like, they're going to have some games. They're going to pull off some divisional upsets like they always do. Jaden Daniels is going to really impress as a rookie, I think. But it's Washington. A lot of uncertainty on the defense as a whole, particularly the pass rush and the secondary. The offensive line outside of Sam Cosmi is abysmal. I've got them at 6-11. Vegas, I really want to pick Vegas as like that sleeper wild card team. I can't justify it when you've got Gardner Minshew at quarterback. I watched Gardner Minshew for the Colts last year. You can say all you want. Well, they were a game away from the playoffs. They were a game away from the playoffs despite of Gardner Minshew, not because of Gardner Minshew. There were games that they had a chance to win that they couldn't win because Gardner Minshew was there. I think the Colts ceiling is elevated. I think the Raiders, they're down a level. I think 6-11 is very fair, around where they were last season. Maybe a little bit worse because they got a bit of a tougher schedule. I think they got a second-place schedule in the division, so that sucks for them. But Vegas will be fine. I mean, not too worried about them, but I think they're going to be hovering around 500. And then Arizona, same sort of deal. Defense is just horrible. I think this offense is going to be awesome. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I think they got a top 5 backfield in the league. I think Kyler Murray is going to prove a lot of haters wrong. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to put up awesome numbers. Their defense is going to lose them games because they're just not going to be able to stop anybody. And I got Arizona finishing 6-11. Going into 8 and 9 teams, we've got 4 of them. Tampa Bay, last year was an awesome season. You saw some really exciting stuff. Do you trust Baker Mayfield to replicate what he did last year? I think he can. I just think tougher schedule. You got a first-place schedule now. You got to play San Francisco. You got to play Philadelphia. You got to play a Kansas City. Those are tough matchups that I don't know if this team is built to win. Secondary took a hit. You lost Carlton Davis. I think you're going to have there's going to be some tough ones here. I think they're still around a 500 football team, though, with a lot of talent. Same thing with Denver. Denver was a team that I was really, really low on. I thought they had a chance to be one of the worst teams at football. The more I look at that roster, I'm like, they're not going to be that bad. Secondary looks like it could be a strength. You brought in Brandon Jones, who's looked pretty solid. Pat Surtain, number 2 corner in football pretty easily. Him and Jalen Johnson pretty close there. Bo Nix has to be good. I like the receiver room that they've got right now. I like this Denver team. I think Denver is going to be pretty solid. I think they're going to be hovering around that 500 mark all season long. I got them at 8-9. Seattle at 8-9, just uncertainty on the defensive line. You got Uchenna Nwosu, who's already injured, so you're concerned about that. You're concerned about the interior of this offensive line long term, but I do really love the defense. I think they're going to have some really big games. I love this secondary with Reek Woolen, with Devon Witherspoon. I think they're going to be one of the most interesting draft teams next year because you get a good safety in there. You get maybe your long-term quarterback. Seattle could be building a potential contender in the NFL. On top of that, moving on, we got Jacksonville. Jacksonville is another one of those teams that I really want to pick higher than they are. The division's tough. Second place schedule. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a career year, but there's just a lot of concerns. I think the secondary got worse. I'm not a big Trayvon Walker guy. I think he definitely shouldn't have been the number 1 overall pick. So you got concerns there about that. The offensive line, it's solid. Anton Harrison looks incredible in camp, but this offense could have some ups and downs. You also, obviously, the secondary, major concerns. It's a good team. Again, right around 500. I think I got them at 8-9. Wouldn't be shocked if this is 9-8, and they split with the Miami Dolphins. If they win week 1 against Miami, I think they switch. Miami is one of those teams that I'm just not very high on this year. We've seen this recipe the last couple of years. You could talk about them being a great regular season team. I'm not there with this squad. I just can't get there. Miami has had bad injury luck. I think that I think their defense took a major hit, losing Christian Wilkins. You don't really know what the health of a Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips is going to look like. Secondary is great. Linebacker plays average, and offensive line play is not good. So a lot of concerns about this Miami team for me. I got them finishing right above 500 with a 9-8 record. I really think they're going to struggle this season to win games. Tua's good. I just don't know if he's the answer for this team. The Rams, I think their offense is going to win them 9 games single-handedly. I think where they're going to struggle defensively. Aaron Donald has a gravitational pull on this defense. He's gone now. You don't have a number 1 corner. You don't have a number 1 pass rusher. And it looks like you might be trading Ernest Jones, who was by far your best defensive player last year outside of Aaron Donald. You lose that guy. I mean, what does this defense have? You got concerns on the O-line. The offense is going to be great, but they're going to allow 30 points a game because they just don't have a defense that's going to stop anyone. I don't think they're going to create pressure. I don't think they're going to stop the run. And I like Jared Verse. I like Braden Fisk. I don't think they're the answers, though. Cleveland, I wanted to put them in the playoffs. They got a pretty favorable schedule this year. I got them at 9 wins. The end of their schedule kind of kills them. Who the heck knows what Deshaun Watson's going to be? That's what brings them down. Same thing with Pittsburgh, who I also have at 9-8. Who the heck knows about these two teams' quarterback situations? For Pittsburgh, I got a little bit more concerns about the receiving room, the offensive line. Cleveland, that defense is so good. They should be able to get into the playoffs, but I do have some concerns looking at this roster on the quarterback position, the most important position. And is Nick Chubb going to be back? What kind of run game are you guys going to have? A lot of concerns there. So those are the last two teams to kind of round us out. I don't even know what Pittsburgh is going to do at quarterback. Don't really think it matters. I just think the AFC is loaded right now with talent. So those are the 18 teams. But if you guys want to see the standings here a little bit more in full, given the divisions here, there you guys go. Screenshot it, roast me at the end of the year on this. But we're going to predict the playoff games here. And I'm really, really excited about this one because I think this is going to be one of the more interesting seasons that I can remember. A lot of different ways that this can go. And we're going to get right into this, looking at some of the matchups that I would have here. We're going to start in the NFC here. We're going to go from bottom to top. The Atlanta Falcons and the Green Bay Packers here. Atlanta's a really good team. I think they improved the areas that you wanted to see them improve in by trading for Matthew Judon and signing Justin Simmons. Those are great signings for this team. Even with Judon, though, I think this is one of the bottom 5 or 10 pass rushers in the league. Arnold Ebiketie, not good. Zach Harrison has not been great. You lost Calais Campbell and Bud Dupree, who are your top 2 edge rushers. The offense should be solid. I don't really know what the number 2 weapon is in Atlanta right now. As much as I like Darnell Mooney, I'm just not really there with this Atlanta team. Green Bay, on the other hand, I love this Green Bay team. If it wasn't for Detroit being in this division, I think they'd be the clear favorites to win it. This team has everything you're looking for in terms of talent. They've got incredible wide receiver depth, a young superstar quarterback, a good O-line. The secondary improved. The run game improved. There's just not a lot of holes on this Green Bay team other than the fact they're the youngest roster in the NFL. Atlanta has the experience with a guy like Kirk Cousins that you do wonder how he's going to play in these big moments. You got a rookie head coach. I'm going to take Green Bay to go on and advance to the divisional round of the playoffs. Then you got Dallas and Philadelphia. I mean, I'm just going to let you guys know now. It's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas is a team that I think is primed to win in the regular season. And even then, I have a lot of concerns. I got them finishing 10-7 this year. I think the run game is a disaster. They're talking about signing Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook was cooked last year, and they think he's going to come in and make some sort of a difference. The offensive line looks really solid. Tyler Guyton looks like he's more pro-ready than many of us expected him to be. You got Cooper Beebe. Who would have thought he would have been good? I mean, come on now. He was one of my favorite players in the entire draft class. You already lost Deron Bland. You already lost Sam Williams. You lost Dorrance Armstrong. You lost Dan Quinn. Like, there's a lot of pieces that this team has already lost. You just signed CeeDee Lamb. What is the Dak situation going to look like? I think it's going to be a dark cloud looming over this team until they sign it. Philadelphia, on the other hand, I love what this Eagles team did this offseason. They went out and they signed Saquon Barkley because DeAndre Swift, I'm sorry, not a very good running back. They made some much-needed moves in the secondary, getting Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. You also bring back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You trade Hassan Reddick, and you bring in Bryce Huff. Tons of really solid moves for Philadelphia. You bring in Vic Fangio. You bring in Kellen Williams, I believe. Kellen Moore, excuse me. This is an Eagles team that I think really improved. They already have one of the most loaded rosters. You got guys like Jalen Carter that are still developing, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean. This is a really, really good Eagles team. I got them winning, headed to the divisional round. And then you got the Lions and the Bears. I'm in on the Bears this year. I think the Bears are a playoff team this season. Easy schedule. Rookie quarterback that I think is going to be awesome right out the gate. One of the top 10 defenses in the league last year after the Montez Sweat addition. This is a Matt Eberflus coach defense that was incredible last year. They've got good secondary play. They've got a good young quarterback. The offensive line, you might have some concerns on the interior, but with Caleb Williams' escapability, you feel pretty good about that. The Bears defense looked awesome in the preseason. The offense looked really sharp. I really liked what the Bears are doing. I don't think they're going to make a deep run this year, but I do think they are going to be in the wild card round. And they're taking on a Lions team that is one of the most balanced rosters in all of football. You got guys on this team like a Sam Laporta that you found in the second round. This team's super balanced. You brought in DJ Reader, who I loved. I didn't like the Lions draft very much at all. But even then, it didn't really matter because I think they have such a deep and talented roster. The cornerback room should be better with Carlton Davis, Terry and Arnold, and it's Rakestraw. That was their biggest weakness, and I think they improved it. I'm going to go with Detroit to advance to the second round, which is going to give us some pretty fun matchups there. We'll come back to that. I want to go top to bottom here. Indianapolis is a playoff team to me. I don't understand how anyone is like sleeping on this team right now. Indianapolis is a very good team. Am I biased? Probably a little bit. I don't see a world where Indy doesn't make the playoffs. Third place schedule that gets way easier in the second half of the season. They got New England. I think they got Tennessee twice. They've got they have some easy matchups. Minnesota's in there. Indianapolis has a offensive line that is one of the 5 best in football, with the most underrated left tackle in the game in Bernard Ryman. Quentin Nelson still an all-pro. You got Jonathan Taylor for a full season now. That's something that I think is going to be under the radar here. They didn't have Jonathan Taylor all of last year, and he still had 800 yards. Obviously the defense I think is going to be better this year with some development of a guy like a Jalen Jones. Hopefully Juju Brents can stay on the field. And we haven't even mentioned Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson, he's going to have his inconsistencies. He's going to have some bad plays. He's going to be inaccurate at times. But I think he elevates this team more than what you saw from Minshew because of his ability on the ground and because I think any throw is available to him where it wasn't with Minshew. I think this team does get into the playoffs because they got a favorable schedule. I think you got one of the best head coaches in the game, and you're going to have a run game that's going to be damn near impossible to stop. Unfortunately, you're going into a Baltimore team that I still really, really like this Ravens team. You add Derrick Henry, which I kind of think is one of the more overrated moves of the offseason. I don't know how impactful Derrick Henry is going to be. I don't think it's going to matter. I think the receiving room here is going to be really interesting to kind of watch because Zay Flowers is your clear number 1. What is the rest of that? I think they're going to be in a lot of 12 personnel, playing a lot of Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely because Likely is better than what you have in the receiving room. The defense lost some pieces. You lost to Jadeveon Clowney, who was a big part of this team. You lost Geno Stone, who was a big part of this team as well. You lost some pieces. I don't really think it's going to matter too much here. I like this Baltimore team. I don't think they're going to be a great playoff team. And even though there's a matchup here that I actually think favors the Colts because I think they're a really good run defending team with Grover Stewart there. I think they're going to be able to run the football here. They beat Baltimore last year. Let's not forget. I'm not going to be a homer, though. I am going to take the Ravens. Even though if this was a matchup, I think the Colts would have a better chance than we're giving them credit for. Then you got the Texans and the Bills. I'm just going to go with Houston here. I really struggle to talk myself into Buffalo. Their schedule's pretty favorable. That's how they ended up in this playoff picture. But I don't like the receiver room. I don't like the defense. I just love Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is good enough to win you 10 games and get you to the playoffs. But you're running into a Houston team that is so balanced with a ton of talented pieces on their roster. You got 3 receivers that you're going to have to stop. You've got a really solid defense that's just continuing to get better with the development of a Derek Stingley and a Will Anderson. I don't know very much about this Bills receiving room. We haven't really seen anything from any of these guys in preseason. Keon Coleman's looked okay. Khalil Shakir, I like Shakir. He's a stash for me in fantasy, but we'll see what happens. I like this Houston team. They got home field. I'm taking them to advance. And then Cincinnati and the Jets. This would be one of the most fun games because I think you're going a really good offense versus a really great defense. I think the Jets are going to win this division. They're going to host a playoff game at MetLife. I'm in on Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come back and be a good quarterback like we have seen. this defense is just so good. Secondary is going to have some awesome performances. This is a really, really good Jets team. The Bengals, I think, are another team a lot of people are sleeping on. Joe Burrow's back. He's got a full camp where he's been healthy. He's been playing. Jamarrchase is back. You got Higgins. You've got an offensive line that I think is better than it has been in previous seasons. And that being said, I think I'm taking the Jets to win. I think the Jets are more balanced. The Jets went out. They improved their roster. They added to their offensive line, which is a huge need. You add a guy like Hassan Reddick to the pass rush. You still got Jermaine Johnson, who I think has a real chance to be in Defensive Player of the Year conversations. Sauce Gardner is the best corner in football. And I'm not even going to take him. I'm going to take this a step further. I think the Jets are going to upset Kansas City in Arrowhead. I'm in on the Jets this year. Like I said, I think this roster is incredibly talented top to bottom. Aaron Rodgers is quietly the most underrated quarterback in football right now. I know we didn't see him healthy last year, but he's still Aaron Rodgers. That arm talent has not gone away. What makes Aaron Rodgers so special, it's not his athleticism. It's his IQ. It's his ability to make every single throw. I don't think that's going away. I think he's going to be awesome this year. And when you got the weapons he has, you've got the defense he has, he doesn't even need to be a superstar. He just needs to be a serviceable quarterback. And I think that's what you're going to get. The Chiefs, to me, they're going to be very good. This game's going to go down to the wire. You still got Patrick Mahomes. There's not a lot of weaknesses here. The weakness to me, the offensive line. I think they could struggle against his Jets pass rush. Who is the number one weapon on this team? That still remains to be seen. And what's the secondary going to look like without L'Jarius Sneed? A few minor concerns that I have there, but I do think the Jets are going to get it done and head to the AFC Championship game. And then they're going to face the Ravens, I think. I think the Ravens are going to do it again, head back to the AFC Championship game. It's a Texans team that I think their run defense, while it graded out really, really well, I think this is going to be a game that favors Baltimore 10 times out of 10. They're just going to be able to run the ball on this Houston team. I think they're a little bit more balanced. I think they're a little bit more physical in the trenches. And I think that's going to get it done. I think the CJ Stroud, it's going to be a really good matchup, but I think you're going to see Jets-Ravens in the AFC Championship. And then in the NFC Championship, we're going to see both one seeds go down in the wild card round. I'm taking Green Bay. They were a play away from beating San Francisco last year, and I think they're going to get it done this year. I love Jordan Love. He's my pick to win MVP this season. I think Green Bay is going to be awesome. He's got all the weapons he wants at his disposal, and this is a much thinner interior in San Francisco. I think they're going to be able to run the ball with Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, A.J. Dillon, and I think the secondary has improved. The safety play was so bad. If you had good safety play, they might have gone to the Super Bowl last year. You brought in Xavier McKinney, who's a top 5-10 safety in the league. I think that's good enough to get you there, and I think he is going to be the difference maker for this team. And then I think we are going to see another NFC North team in the NFC Championship, and that is going to be the Detroit Lions. I really like this Lions team. We talked about it. This is just a team that I think is going to be one of the more intriguing teams to watch all year. They've got weapons everywhere on the offense. The defense is much improved. And I am in on Detroit this year. I think this could be the year that they finally get over the hump. They get into that superstar contender status, and they're in the NFC Championship game for the second year in a row. And for the second year in a row, I think they're going to go down. I got Green Bay winning the NFC, heading to the Super Bowl. I think there's a Packers team that is ready to take that step. Jordan Love, we talked about it. I think he's special. The throws that he makes, his ability to sense pressure, throw it off his back foot. He's got so many weapons. Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, Dontavian Wicks. Bo Melton. They have so many weapons. And I think Green Bay is going to the Super Bowl where they're going to face a familiar friend Aaron Rodgers and the Jets are getting to the Super Bowl. I think this defense is going to be out of this world. I think they're going to get them to the Super Bowl. I think you're built to win in the cold weather. There's a physical, nasty football team. And a Jets-Packers Super Bowl. Man, I really want to pick both of these teams. I'm high on both these teams going into the year. You kind of break it down. Who's got the better quarterback? I'd say it's probably even right now. The better running back room probably goes to the Jets. Better receiving room probably goes to the Packers. Better offensive line goes to the Packers. And then everything on the defense goes to the Jets. And with all that being said, coaching is kind of where it comes down to it for me. And I think Matt LaFleur is ready to take that jump. And I got the Green Bay Packers winning the 2025 Super Bowl. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to take home the Lombardi and win the Super Bowl this upcoming season. But let me know, guys, who do you guys think is going to the Super Bowl? Who are your teams that you got an eye on? Which teams am I too high on? Which teams am I too low on? Let me know down in the comment section. Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.